Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to a very special edition of the ODPH Podcast. My name is Ken M, and joining me via Zoom, because our one and only Padawan Jay got married this past weekend to Liz Bailey. Congratulations to the newlyweds. We have a guest that we have been long overdue to have come on the show, and if you watch Nerd Initiative YouTube, you know he always brings it like nobody else, because when you gotta get a wrestling hot take, he delivers on point. He is the man that has an introduction. Does he really need another one? But I'm going to give him one anyway, because if he's not out hunting the Pokemon cards and giving you all that knowledge on Instagram, he is 1/3 of the Triple Threat team that swings through Wrestling Night Live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube. He doesn't need a name, but we just like to say he's the new guy. He's just Nick. Nick, what is going on?
ODPH Podcast fans, just like Doctor Strange, I'm jumping through universes and I landed right here.
And we are excited to have you on. And the Pokemon challenge to Padawan J is still in effect, is it not?
Still in effect. I heard a little rumor that you might have been getting some Pokemon cards recently. I feel a little left out and feeling a little slighted. Couldn't find anything going on in New York, so I might just have to make my way up your way, and we'll have to throw down at high noon.
Oh, we're definitely down for that. That will be all over Nerd Initiative and ODPH. Guarantee you, when the showdown happens, Pad versus Nick, it's going to be an epic event. Much like this episode, and we'll just kind of shorten up the intro because we got a lot to break down in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more for anything and everything that is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com, and if you're using hashtags on social media, hey, why not use the hashtag ODPHpod? Kicking off the entertainment edition of the show is a recap of Marvel Studios' big live action show that's gaining more steam. Would you say that, Nick?
I would agree. The show, it started off, fairly strong, pretty decent buzz to it, and it has been gaining steam. And I think the overall quality of the episodes and the story has really warranted that. It's been enjoyable.
Indeed, because what we're going to be breaking down is the latest episode of Marvel Studios and Disney Plus's Agatha All Along. The title character spinning out of the WandaVision universe has really picked up a lot of steam recently with the episodes. Catherine Hahn is reprising her role as Agatha Harkness. Joe Locke has now finally been revealed to be the son of Wanda Maximoff, aka Billy Maximoff, aka Wiccan from the comics, and their magical journey through the Witch's Road to get their powers has really taken a lot of twists and turns. And obviously, since the reveal of one Wiccan, things have picked up, or as we like to say in the wrestling business, business has picked up. And there is a lot to break down with the latest episode. So if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. We definitely appreciate it. Drop a review on your favorite podcatcher. What we like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be talking about. Then we give you a countdown. After said countdown, you have to make a choice. You either stay for the spoiler talk, or you have to pause the episode, get caught up, and jump back in, because we definitely want to interact with you, because there's a lot going on with episode 7 of season 1 of Agatha All Along, entitled Death's Hand in Mine. So Nick, why don't you give us your spoiler-free statement of the episode?
Okay, spoiler-free statement on the episode is we're seeing a continuation of Agatha and her coven along the road, and we're getting into the last parts of the story overall, where one of the final trials finally unfolds. I think that's the easiest spoiler-free type breakdown of this. It's tough. If you've been watching this, you kind of see what's been building and what's coming. You knew this episode, something was gonna come, and it was a lot of fun. It was probably my favorite episode out of all of them so far.
Yeah, this one had a lot of moving parts going on. Literally, actually, if you watch the show. And to see where Agatha's journey is going, and primarily Billy's now, this is where we're having an interesting character swing in, and one that we've had an idea about, and really to see of how we're near the end of the road and how this is all going to play out involving the family of Wiccan is something that has really got a lot of buzz. And I don't want to say it's on that whole Mephisto level, that when you talk about anything in Marvel Studios, like, oh, Mephisto's coming, Mephisto's coming. But I will say there is quite the buzz surrounding this because with back-to-back episodes coming next week on October 30th, there is going to be a big payoff, we're hoping. And I think they set up things in the right direction, albeit though, I almost feel like they set the bar too high because this one had a lot of emotional moments in it involving one character especially. And to see now where the showdown, it looks like it's going to happen, that's where I think we're going to get the big payoff. But I think for the setup that happened here, it was a fun episode, like Nick alluded to. I have to agree with that. And I really think that they've now kind of really honed in on what they want to do with the show. And then we go into those two episodes remaining, and there's going to be a lot to speculate about in the next couple days. So that said, in three, two, one, Nick, talk to me.
Well, like you were saying right there before we went spoiler free, we're building up to the end here, and with what we saw in this episode, there's the opportunity to really do something massive here. You could see a Wanda, we could finally see a Mephisto, we could really maybe be introduced to something, but I'm worried. There's been a trend with these Marvel TV shows where it can get a little muddy in the middle. We didn't get too muddy here, which was impressive, but sticking the landing has been very hard for these TV shows, and I
Agreed.
just don't want another letdown. I really feel strongly like you need a Wanda here or a Vision. You need something big and impactful to really make these shows feel big again. We started off, with a really strong fastball in WandaVision. The show was really good, but towards the end, it kind of lost its way, and I'm worried that could happen here because there's a lot of moving parts in the show.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, this has been a fun episode. It's been a fun journey so far, but fun is not going to be the payoff. Like we need something epic to happen, and I fully agree with you. And I think for what we got here, the introduction of Aubrey Plaza's character finally
Hmm.
really made a lot of noise. And knowing what her character is, it almost leans to you to think that yeah, you are right about we're going to have to have Elizabeth Olsen come back as Scarlet Witch or Paul Bettany come back as Vision in some aspect to tie into the whole aspect of death because somebody is coming back to life. Like that is the ultimate payoff that has to happen here. It's just a matter of who or whom because we could be talking about multiple characters because of how things are set up. I mean, that's just my take on it. How about you?
No, I agree. I feel as if we were just to get, the brother Maximoff, and that's the big payoff at the end. I don't think that's good enough to really make this a lasting impression in a show that people would really want to go back and revisit. And that's again, like we talked about, that's been a problem and a challenge with these shows since day one, is
Mm.
really making them matter, and we just haven't seen enough of it.
Yeah, especially with his character, because I mean, in the comics, Agatha Harkness has never been on this level. Like, it has always been a solid supporting character, sure, but one to carry a series, I've never really seen that in the books. But it's testament to Catherine Hahn's work that she's really made this character so connectable to the audience that you want to see more of her. And I think that yeah, you need a big payoff of some sort, even though it seems like this show has all been setting up just to build up for Young Avengers, which I think is where you're going to see a lot of those Disney Plus characters go and do. But I do feel that, yeah, I'm with you that they need to have a monster character get either brought back or introduced. It's just a matter of who. Because where we come into the episode, you see that Billy and Agatha are now still on the Witch's Road. They're almost like the last one standing, if you will.
Hmm.
And they come across a mysterious castle, which, I mean, this is nothing new, but to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of felt like Wash, Rinse, Repeat.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just like it seems almost like the cliche thing of the Agents of Shield when they say, well, we were about the Avengers, about the incident in New York. It's the same thing. It's just, okay, here we go, another test, but it all feels the same. And the one thing they do, and I will say the show has done very well, is for each trial, they're having fun because when you see them walk into the castle, they get transformed into some familiar characters, would you say, Nick?
Definitely in this episode, yes.
Yeah, and you see
Mm.
that Wiccan is now dressed up as Maleficent, and Agatha is the Wicked Witch of the West. And I mean, it comes off well. I mean, the dressing for that is amazing, and the costumes. That's what I say. The dressing and costumes are just like you could definitely tell they're enjoying their time here, and they're trying to ham it up a little bit. But where the trial goes into, it's like we're dealing with tarot cards again. And the whole deal with this is they have to place the tarot cards in correct order on the table. Otherwise, hanging above them is swords. Now, what was your take when you're seeing all this play out?
And when it first started, I was a bit confused because, we saw the tarot cards, but we knew that that part of the coven, the supporting coven sisters were not involved anymore. So to loop them back into it, I think was vital. And I'm hoping that we do get to see the entire coven back before this is over. But how it all played out with seeing now knowing that bits and pieces of this trial and story were told throughout, it's an interesting idea. I don't think it played off well enough. I think you just kind of felt like she was a bit, loony instead of like, oh, like this really could meet something later. I didn't pick up on it enough. Maybe I'm just not a smart enough audience member on that.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, it was kind of like, all right, where are we going here? Because I mean, obviously they did focus a lot of this episode on Lila, who's played by the phenomenal Patty LuPone. And to see her character get this kind of spotlight moment, it's a big deal. And especially when they start going into her background, it was kind of like, okay, where is the end game for this? No pun intended, because of the MCU. But it's one of those situations you're trying to sit there and cipher through. And when we start going through her past and about her life is out of order, I just felt like that was super confusing, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was tough to keep up with.
yeah, because it's just like, and I hate when shows do that, especially short shows, because we know the time frame of this, they don't usually go past a half hour to an hour at the maximum. So it's like to do all those time jumps in that short amount of time, like that is confusing to an audience member, especially when you try getting through the gist of the story. And then when you start seeing all these different memory lapses, they go back to when she fell through the mud trap that was going on, or the quicksand. I mean, if it looked like quicksand to me, but it's like when on the road, when Wiccan unleashes the powers that he is possessing, we do see that Lila now comes across a character that we've all had this idea who she was. I know it got leaked out via a Funko release, but to see Aubrey Plaza's character of Rio is actually Death herself.
Hmm.
What was your reaction watching this all unfold?
Well, first off, damn you Funkos for spoilers on that. But
Agreed. Agreed.
but again, seeing the final, and again, it wasn't so much even like a turn. It's not like a wrestling face or heel turn or whatever. Like again, we all kind of knew, but to see it unfold, it really worked well.
Hmm.
She's been phenomenal in this role, and you've had questions about how her and Agatha have been related, even knowing that she is Death from from the early get-go here. It was still interesting to see that story unfold. She's had to put in a very strong performance on Aubrey Plaza, and Death is a very integral, important character in Marvel different universes. Not it
Oh
hasn't
yeah.
been in this universe, but in other universes been incredibly integral. So it's the type of character that you feel would make the leap into the cinematic portion of the universe and would have some staying power. And based upon what we've seen, I don't know if we're going to get that leap. So we like we said, we have 2 episodes left to go, and maybe that's where we get some sort of a big leap into the overall bigger picture.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, I think we have to. I mean, I love how they did the setup and explained how Rio had been planting the seeds that she's Death all along. And knowing the backstory with her and Agatha, like they touched upon a couple episodes ago, you knew that there was something there. But to see her character come through, and Death in the comics is complicated, to put it mildly, because the character is connected to Thanos, connected to Deadpool of all people. And to see now her connected to this universe, you have to think that when we get to the season finale, Death is going to be somehow connected to somebody they're bringing back. And now this is where you have to speculate, like, who could it be? Because we know that Tommy is still out in the ether right now. We don't know about the other Maximoff son. We know, obviously, Wanda is still considered dead in the events of Doctor Strange 2. And then is there anybody else that's in that family that could be? I mean, we do know Quicksilver in the MCU, obviously, barring the X-Men crossover that happened, we can say, well, I mean, obviously in Avengers Ultron, there was a Quicksilver there, but has been gone too. We don't know if that's coming in, or even our one listener, Dre Driven, had mentioned, shout out to Dre, that this might be the open door for one Magneto to come through. So kind of considering that, what's your take on that kind of theory?
I think to get just the other brother, the son of Wanda, would be a little bit of a disappointment. Getting Wanda would make a lot of sense, and that would be impactful. We touched on Vision, that would make sense, but he's a robot, so death would be a little different for him, and he's died what, 2 times now. So
Yeah.
going through the list though, the Magneto one would be very interesting. We've already seen some teases of X-Men in this portion of the Marvel universe, and it's a property that Marvel can do a lot with.
Mm-hmm.
Getting
Oh, go. I'm sorry.
Wanda, just getting Wanda's brother, I mean, that death was very impactful, and to see that rolled back, especially this long after, I don't know if that would work very well. And without the sister, now he's back and he doesn't have his sister.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would just come off kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a hell of a curveball, but
Yeah.
I could see it happening, but I don't want to. I think the safe money bet would be Tommy to kind of cipher where he is. But I think for this show, and if you really want this to generate the buzz it has to, you're almost forced that it has to be Wanda. Because I think if it's not, yeah, Tommy's a cool character to introduce as Speed, but you don't get that big payoff.
Yeah.
It would be, I mean, I feel letdown is a strong word, but I think it has to be, wouldn't you say?
I would 100% agree with that. And statistically, with the Marvel TV shows, we've had more letdowns than payoffs.
Yeah. I mean,
I hate to say it, but I mean, it's just, it is what it is,
oh, it's true. I mean, obviously, since Kevin Feige has taken over both the TV and the movie aspect, they've gotten a little tighter about that. But I do agree with you. Like we get these pedestals put up that, okay, the MCU show and everything's connected, and then to see where it plays out. And then for a lot of them, like they're fun episodes or good episodes, I should say, but we're not talking about like show stealing, like in comparison to The Mandalorian and then bringing back Luke Skywalker for an episode and doing those kind of like mic drop. Like that was when you can shut down social media for like a couple hours, you've done something well. And I think that with the Marvel shows, like you alluded to, they've been great, but they haven't been that. And I think to tide fans over because there hasn't been a ton of MCU content on this year, because obviously next year the deck is loaded, so we don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I think you need that mic drop moment to carry you through the rest of the year. And I don't think you can go any higher than a Scarlet Witch. And then because I think the ultimate goal is going to be when Billy gets to the end of the Witch's Road, he says, I want my family back. And then depending on how far they want to go with that, I think that covers a lot of ground because then you plant it out there. You don't necessarily have to have Elizabeth Olsen come in right then and there, even though I think it would be great. But I think you need to do something to establish that. And I think that would be the only way to go. Because where we go back with the episode is Lila's having that moment with Death. And it's almost said, like, your time is up. My time is now.
Mm.
And to see where it plays, then we see that the other member of the Covenant, Jen, is brought back into the mix here and has to deal with the Salem 7. Now, I have to ask you this question. Is it just me or has the Salem 7 been a very big letdown?
It's very much been a big letdown. Yeah, they weren't given enough time to really develop into what they were, or even really knew what they were early enough in the show. It's been a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think for what you could have done with them, it just seemed like there were mindless zombies chasing them the entire time. There was no real payoff. So to see them still coming through, and when you see everybody finally united, the Coven reborn, you don't really get necessarily the big payoff I think you want because the villains involved have not been that great. I mean, I know they've alluded to Nicholas Scratch a lot, but not the strongest of villain. And then especially the Salem 7 has just been, nameless and mindless. And it's like, okay, like, where are we going here? Because this also leads back to the trials is unfolding. And then this one is completely centered around Lila because we go back to the tarot cards, which goes to the origin episode of Wiccan and seeing how this has come into play. I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like they tipped their hand too much with making this all about Lila because you knew that when she was going to flip a certain card, you knew that she was done. Am I the only one about that, or how about you? What was your take on that?
Especially if you know tarot enough, you kind of could see that coming. I would agree it was a little bit of a, too much of a nod, but it was still really impactful to see her story come to the ending that it was at. But it's hurt because of the Salem Seven, and this whole entire story could have been told without them. You
Hmm.
didn't need that at all. It was a little bit of a conveniency in the writing to like, oh, someone's chasing us now. We have to go down the road. It's like you were going to go down the road anyway. That's what you wanted to do. So it's one of those things where it feels really impactful, her death, but it's ultimately kind of like, but for what though? For these nameless, faceless, whatever villains that we didn't care about to begin with.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Like I was sitting there going, okay, she's Lila's placing the cards in the deck order because we see the swords are coming, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna take this and really put this in the order. I'm gonna save you all, but I'm gonna sacrifice myself to stop the seven who haven't done anything this entire show.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand you want to say this noble death, but other than taking out the other member of the coven early on in the show, Sharon, who's played by Deborah Jo Rupp, like there has been no, at least in my opinion, no serious danger. So it's like it's a death that I feel is impactful for the audience because you've connected with the character. But like for the overall story, it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, why did we need this? We didn't need this.
Yeah, because once she places the death card in the center, the entire table or the entire room flips. So the other members of the coven escape, but then you see everybody like doing the slow CGI fall into the swords, and then you see that Lila's trying to hang on and then ultimately lets herself go. And then how they wrap the episode up is we see a young Lila going back to her original school days and starting her life all over again, like almost like it's a 360. And that's how the episode wraps up. So, I mean, I thought it was solid, but I thought for where we got, they wanted to make a big, impactful death to lead into now we're going into the end game. Now it's the final two episodes. It's going to be Agatha versus Death. It has to be. And then who comes out the winner is literally anybody's guess. I mean, what's your final thoughts on the episode?
I enjoyed the episode. I felt it was one of the stronger ones, even with some of the points that we made here, dissecting it. But I still really enjoyed it. I really liked seeing, the strength of the coven, where it was like, hey, you can leave, but I'm asking you to stay. I really like that. You've really seen this bond between some of these characters develop and continue to grow. Going into this, though, I mean, like we said, though, there's got to be a big payoff, and the Marvel TV shows have been lacking it. So I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Nervous.
I don't blame you. I'm nervous too, because if this turns out to be all for nothing and we don't get a big return of some sort, this has been all for nothing. I mean, it's been a fun journey. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
But
out of the shows, this is like middle of the road. It really is. This is not the worst thing that Marvel has done for their TV shows at all. We
agreed.
s- we, we saw Secret Invasion. That was not very good.
I was great minds think alike because I
Yeah.
I was gonna say Secret Invasion, big letdown,
Yeah.
monster letdown.
Yeah.
But I feel I'm right there with you. Like this has been fun. It's been more musical than anything, and I mean how much they tie into the song aspect, but I don't mind, like I'm not mad about it. But it's been
Mhm.
fun, but we need something big to happen. I feel that if we don't, it's like why did we even do the show? And otherwise you should have done a one shot like they did with Werewolf by Night for the Marvel Spotlight edition. Like if you
Yeah.
wanted to do that, you needed to. But if this is just to establish Young Avengers, that's cool and all. But I think now you've raised the stakes even higher, introducing Death, because now with that character involved, it almost feels like you have to bring back the whole Maximoff family. Whether you want to or not, your hand is forced as the writers. And if the writers are saying that, it's a good move to do because that'll open up some stories going forward. Because obviously, with now the big switch with Robert Downey Jr. coming in as Doctor Doom, you're going to have some wiggle room to really change some narratives. But I feel that if we don't get Wanda at the end of this, I feel it's going to be a letdown. I mean, Tommy is there, sure, but I don't think the fan base is going to be like that blown away that it's him because we know the minute that Wiccan was identified, yeah, Tommy is coming, Young Avengers, they've been setting up since the Marvels. So you want to do something that's going to shock the fans and have everybody buzzing. I feel that, yeah, if we don't get that here, they're really dropping the ball on that.
So I'm going to pose a question to you because we talked about some of the potential characters, but you being the comic book expert around here, and seeing where this story has gone since, since really WandaVision, do we get a Doctor Strange instead? Do we tease and go that route? Because I mean, we'd had Doctor Strange too. That Wanda was heavily involved. Do they go that route? Would we want them to go that route? Would Strange and Death make a lot of sense? I don't think so. But I mean, he is the one that killed the mom.
I think, okay, let me do this by percentages. I think that there's a 20% chance we'll see Doctor Strange. I think with anything magic in the MCU, he could be involved. But considering how things were left with him at the end of his movie and then at the end of No Way Home,
And the response to
yeah,
said things, yeah.
yeah, I don't necessarily know if that's a big slam dunk win per se, unless they do something along the lines of they do a time rewind and they go back to the moment where Wanda was buried under the Darkhold temple, and they somehow do like a reverse and she survives somehow. And
Hmm.
that's how she emerges. I mean, there's always that chance, but I don't think they're going to go him. I don't feel that here because I think that the overall arc has to be to get like we have to get to Wanda. And I think, I mean, whether they want to or not, I think the MCU is kind of in a situation that Wanda makes a lot more sense to do. Because I would say
Agreed.
like, yeah, because I'd say like in the percentages, Strange is a 20. I'd say Wanda has to be a 60. And then, I mean, Speed is a given, so I don't even feel like putting him in. I think that's a no-brainer. And then I think the rest of it can get split up 10 and 10 with Magneto and Quicksilver because I think that you're going to have somebody in there with magic to be involved. But I also feel that the Scarlet Witch, I mean, is so connected with Agatha that it has to be her. And unless they really want to do something weird and have the Vision show up at the end, and that would lead into his show, which we know is coming at some point, at least still slated last I knew, which was Vision Quest. But how would that tie in too, other than he comes to investigate, but then again, he was pretty much mind wiped from what we knew him. So yeah, I mean, the Doctor Strange theory is good though. I do like that chance, but it just depends on like you touched upon too, the response from the other movies. Like, would they be so like, yeah, let's go for because I haven't heard anything really about Doctor Strange rumblings other than the Avengers because he will be in that, no
Yeah.
doubt. That. But I think though after his movie was I mean I like Doctor Strange too. I know some people were kind of really split 50-50 on it. And then his character in No Way Home was I was not a fan of that. So but we'll see. I mean that would be a great cameo, but then where does that ultimately lead unless he's going to try being the head of Young Avengers? Because I don't want to give too much away if you haven't read the story or if our listeners haven't either. Because there is an Avenger tie-in to it, but it's more Visions leading that. But I don't necessarily know if they would slide Strange in that position. I think that'd be kind of a little awkward to the story. But I think that is a great possibility. Like that, I mean, now that you're putting that in there, the more I'm kind of thinking about it, I'm like, there is a chance.
Well, I'm just thinking in terms of death. What if we do get the boys and they realize death could help them get revenge on their mother's death, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that would be something too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they would. The only way I would see them maybe not doing that is because we know that Yelena is doing a lot of that for her sister and Black Widow and now with Thunderbolts. So I don't
Hmm.
know if they want to have all the characters out on this big vengeance tour, even though I'd be fine with it because it makes a lot of sense. But I almost wonder if they would kind of avoid that, bring him back, and then everybody goes back to find out what happened with the mother and try piecing the characters back and that maybe leads to Vision Quest, wherever they find him right now. I mean,
Well, I find it interesting that you said the word vengeance because I think we need to jump into that universe now.
I'm all for it. I'm all for that. Because if we're going to talk about probably the best, I will say right now, easily the best comic show on the air right now, and take nothing away from Agatha all along, airing Wednesday nights on Disney Plus, but there is one show that has risen out of nowhere, and early reviews you can just throw out the window.
Hmm.
Because the one show that has been such an amazing ride thus far is HBO Max spin-off of the Batman movie, The Penguin. Nick, let's talk spoiler free about this show and your reactions to this.
This show is even harder to talk spoiler free because there are so many layers and world building being done. Now, in this episode, we start to see there's a bit of a time jump. We'll start with that. That's not necessarily a spoiler. There's a bit of a time jump, and we see what has happened with the last episode where we were left off. Both our main characters here were left off in very different places. One was riding very high, and one was riding very kind of low, but it seemed like there was a bit of glimmer of hope for our evil penguin friend. And we have a little bit of a time jump, and things have now shifted. It seems like for one character, things are doing very well, and the other one maybe not so much.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's necessarily evil. I mean, Oswald Cobblepot is just a businessman in Gotham trying to survive after a dangerous assailant ruined the Gotham City streets by flooding it. He's just trying to make a living in the chaos that's around him. He's become a father figure to one character. I mean, is he?
I would say in our last episode, he was pretty evil.
I mean, tomato, tomato, it's all produce. I mean, it could be. But to see the performance from Colin Farrell with the character that we've known in the Batman lore for years, but really, this is the reflection of how when he's written in the comics, he is perfect in this role. He should never be somebody that goes one-on-one against the Batman like we've seen in the cartoons and such. He's always been a criminal mastermind. And how Colin Farrell has set this all up and become now involved in the Gotham crime family civil war, going from frenemy with Sofia Gigante. I have to say that now instead of Falcone because Crispin Milanti has been the breakout character of this series, would you say?
If she's not nominated for awards, that's an absolute travesty and crime. She has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Agreed. I think if she doesn't get an award from this, like there is something wrong with the system. I truly feel that her portrayal as Sophia has been epic, especially her origin story. Like that episode might be arguably the best episode of television this year. I don't think
Yeah.
it's up for debate. And to even see about how Oswald has now taken on that fatherly role with Renzi Felice's Victor, even though Victor tries stealing his car. I mean, stuff happens, but Oswald forgave him. He's teaching him some life lessons. I mean, he's got a heart of, something. And to see now where their journey has gone as they've started this crime war and where Oswald is now, this has been just such a amazing journey. And then as we're about to break down Gold Summit, which just aired this past week, like Nick alluded to, Oswald's on the rise up. I mean, let's go into some spoiler-free talk about this episode, shall we?
In terms of the Penguin and in terms of, spoiler free, again, we're staying spoiler free here. Oswald he's starting to finally build his vision, his dream, his empire. And after being really low in the last episode, you're finally starting to see him rise above and to the top. But really, the biggest portion of this entire show, and you really see this highlighted here for Oswald and for Victor as well. This show is really a lot about family. And I know we're talking Fast and the Furious, we're talking family here, but
Give me a
it's
crossover.
true, but it's so true. For Sophia, she wanted to get rid of her family because of how much they betrayed her, and with Oswald, he's building a new family. And it's been very kind of gruesome building of a family for all parties involved, but the journey there is really starting to come towards the end as one new family has risen and the other one has been gassed.
Yeah, I mean, literally. I mean, this is just goes to show about the extreme measures of the crime world of Gotham City. And especially in this era that we have to remember, this is like year 2 of Batman. So he's still learning his way as he's traveling through Gotham and learning about how to be the city's protector. This is where you see the rise to power of Oswald Cobblepot, and especially in how he's maneuvering between the Falcones and the Maronis and the Gigantes now. And like you're seeing just this brilliant performance of how he's interacting. And yet he has this vision that he's mentioned since the beginning of the episode. So like I always love that he comes back to this about how he wants to be that character for the city. Like he protects the neighborhood. He wants to be that guy. And this really reminds me, if you've ever seen the movie A Bronx Tale, like the same kind of performance, like where you always see Sonny was taking care of everybody in the city. and just that respect level. And that's something that you can tell he's borrowing from, but I don't even mind because to see him do it in Gotham, and Gotham is literally like the worst city on earth. And to see him maneuver and like there's method to his madness, like it's insane to see play out. And then especially with this episode too, where, it's always the kind of sense, if you want to be a gangster, you got to do gangster stuff. And nobody wants to do that when you have to. He's saying like, listen, I understand my role and I want to do this even if it's costing some great consequences, and especially the effect it has on Victor, because Victor has a moment in this episode that you're going like, oh, okay, here we are. And to see his journey now kind of take that pivot, it's been, a hell of a ride, and especially going into that final scene. I know we're both going to start talking spoilers any minute, so I'm just going to throw the countdown on now because
Yeah.
like listen, the episode's been amazing, so we're going to have to get into it. So that being said, three, two, one. All right, Nick, let's talk some spoilers.
All right, I got to start with Victor because we finally got the full heel turn.
Yes,
We
we did.
finally got the full heel turn. And obviously he's struggling with it. You could see that. You could see that struggle within him. But like we were saying in spoiler free, he's someone who hasn't had a strong family, and now he has that. He's got a father figure. He's got a grandmother figure that he's clearly has learned to love and adore. And he wants to protect these things.
Hmm.
And he does in a big way. He finally steps out of his shell a little bit and shows that he's got some guts in him, and it was absolutely heartbreaking, I'm sure, for him, and you can see that. But wow, like impactful.
Oh yeah, to put it mildly, like to see Renzi Flea's performance this, like he steals this episode, and
Yes.
to see the struggle that he's dealt with because we've walked with him through this entire journey. Like he went from reluctant thief to now heir apparent to whatever Oswald's building, and yet you see his journey when he lost his family with the flood and how that has impacted his life, and to see like the choices he's had to make and how Oswald is showing he cares about him, and yet you're seeing and how this is all kind of making him into the character now. And like you touched upon, like this is the final heel turn for him because he's forced to make a decision he doesn't want to do, but he knows he has to. And when he
Hmm.
does that moment, it's mind blowing because like now he fully gets it and his reaction, and especially, and I know we'll get into it in just a little bit, but Oswald's reaction to it. He says a line, and I'm like, oh man, like he's certified. There's no going back.
Yeah, so for the full heel turn from Victor from Oswald, you see a softer version of this character in this episode after the last episode where he was clearly a bad guy. And here you
Yeah.
see a little bit of a softer. After the incident, he really takes time to talk with him and console him, and he even hugs him. And he has the line, which I'll let you touch on, but some of the interaction with his mother as well, very caring, very nurturing, very showing that there is a family to him, and that's what he cares about is his family.
Yeah, I mean the connection he's having with his mother, and I mean Deidre O'Connell's playing Frances Cobblepot is phenomenal. This, especially, you're seeing her deal with early stages of dementia too, and like how that's affecting Oswald, and how he's trying to prove himself to her and to Victor, and like you're seeing the struggle grow on him because like where this episode jumps in, you see that business is booming from the shroom incident that
Hmm.
his plan to go underground and start harvesting bliss is really taking off. But much in that world that he lives in, to be on top, it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world, especially when you have the dynamic duo of Sophia Giante and Salvador Moroni, played by Clancy Brown, teamed up and ready to go and take him out. And they send a message early by killing off a couple of the deliverers of bliss as a message to Oz. Now, when
And
you,
apparently they're also roommates.
yeah, like,
Roomies.
yeah, that was a little awkward moment. I mean,
A little weird.
especially with what is going on with, I guess, Sophia's relationship with one.
Situationship. She's
Yeah,
got a situationship going on there.
thank you. Yeah, with Dr. Julian Rush, played by Theo Rossi. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening there, but when you see the duo teaming up and sending that message, I thought how Oswald handled it was surprisingly brilliant. and he didn't get flustered.
Hmm.
I mean, to see that he goes, okay, you're not going to let us deal with the gangs that we have everything set up through. Okay, we're going to give everybody in Gotham a free shot of bliss, and we're going to hook them. And then they're going to have to cater to us. What was your take on this scene?
It shows that as in his role and through, not just here on the TV show, you have to kind of, speculate and imagine and put some pieces together that he's always been this two steps ahead kind of guy, very observant. And he's probably learned that through the building of the original empire, through the Falcone family of like, yeah, sometimes you have to do these type of things. He's definitely in the position that he's in now because he knows what he's doing. He knows the right chess pieces to move, and he's a survivor. That's a beautiful, brilliant move of, hey, okay, fine, we're just going to get it to everyone for free. We're going to get everyone hooked because then they got to come buy it.
Like,
That only comes with experience.
and just like how quick he's able to pivot to that. Like that just blew my mind. I was like, and you now see the growth of him being a leader, and to
Hmm.
see that he's telling everybody about this, and that leads into Victor moving the product as well. So when you see him go back home, this is where things get very, very awkward, shall we say,
Hmm.
because he runs into, I don't want to say an old friend because, well, let's face it, they're not really friends. But when you see him walking through his old neighborhood, he bumps into a man by the name of Squid. And
Beautiful name. I want to be Squid one day.
yeah, and when you see that go down, you now see that he is in this awkward position, Victor, where he was the guy getting bullied to now he's someone of importance, and Squid wants to be him. And when you see this role reversal play out, I mean, what's going through your mind?
Well, going in my head, I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity for Victor to either step up and really protect his family, or this is something that's going to linger, that's going to cause friction between him and Oswald because it's going to blow up in his face eventually. That's kind of where my mind was going. So this is going to go one way or the other. Either this is going to linger throughout the rest of the show and damage the relationship, or it's going to build a relationship. And we got the build, which was awesome.
Jared Abrahamson, who played Squid, I mean, he did a great job with this role because as you're seeing how he's trying to really push Vic on him, and Vic is trying to evade him at all costs. And then Squid mentions, though, I saw you and that old woman going into the hotel in Crown. You know that, okay, now Vic has to react to him. And to see the reactions that Victor's showing, I mean, Rensley Flees, like I said, had a phenomenal episode, was breakout character of this. And you see how he is trying to maneuver around this. And even when he goes back to Oswald's lair of operations and tries talking to him about it, you see Oz is too tied up with what is going on about getting power down there that it doesn't go exactly to par. But you see Vic is kind of thinking in his mind, at least how I read the moment, like, what would Oz do in this situation?
Hmm.
And you see that father-son, type bond happen here where Vic has to make a choice. And I thought like this was like you knew something was going to happen. I'm like, well, will Vic actually do it? Because he is steered away from this side of the life as much as he can. Sure, he had to go bail Oswald out when he was being held up and ram the car into the guy. But at the same time, he's not somebody that is known to stand up for himself a lot. And I thought in this moment, like, we're gonna get this. And how cool is that? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it was. It seemed exactly like you said, this was a situation that it was of his own creation. It's his problems, it's not Oswald's problems, and he kind of went to him, thinking, oh, he'll help me with this, and he wasn't able to.
Hmm.
So it was what would Oswald do in this situation, or even just like I have to take care of this on my own. I can't just keep going to him for these little inconveniences,
Yeah, like
you know.
it's just it was a growing up moment before our eyes, and you're going, okay, I think I know what he's gonna do, and now to see him play it out is all types of wild. But also at the same time too, you see Sophia and Sal Maroni going through Gotham and going to Oz's apartment to find something to get at him, and they find a picture of his love interest during the show, and that is one Eve. And knowing that she is somebody that's now stayed away from Oz's life. This was something that was going to play out, and I was curious about when you saw this scene, what were you thinking was going to happen here? Because she had been so loyal to him.
Yeah, seeing the interaction with Eve and Sophia was incredibly powerful because it's two female characters that one of them is incredibly developed and the other one was a little underdeveloped, but you kind of knew where she was at with things.
Hmm.
And to see both characters, be completely calm in this scenario. Well, one of them's got a weapon pointed at you, and for them to just move around, they're moving around the whole scene. They're not just
Yeah.
sitting there having a conversation. They're just moving throughout, kind of like this whole show has been a lot of moving pieces. So in this scene, you're seeing a lot of moving pieces, and then it just clicks in Sophia's mind, like this person's got a family. No wonder why they want to protect it. And she took care of her family, and
Yeah.
then from Eve, she's just like, you know what? I've been protecting this guy and he would hang me out to dry. So I'm going to give her shot. And it's really powerful.
Yeah, Carmen Jogo, who played Eve, just phenomenal scene too, going back and forth with Sophia. And you see, like you touched upon, they're moving around the entire scene. So
Mm.
it's this awkward standoff where Sophia comes to her apartment, tracks her down, and you're seeing the conversation they're having. Even with a gun pointed on her, Eve is not flinching.
Right.
Eve sits
Very calm.
yeah, so calm. And it's wild to think about this, but that's how just she is very calm about all things pointed out that she gives up the location in Crown Point of where Oz is. And like you alluded to, there's no honor amongst thieves here because Oswald would turn on anybody at the drop of a hat. So for Eve to do that to him, it was a big moment because Eve had been so loyal, but she was the one that said, I want to stay away from this. You've got too much heat. I can't deal with this. To now it came to her front door. And for Sophia to let her go too. Like that is, like I say, the powerful moment of the episode is they had this conversation and Sophia understands what Eve was doing. And when there's that moment there, it gives another layer to Sophia because even though she is absolutely out of her mind, like,
And been on an absolute rampage and tear.
yeah, I mean, like you touched upon about releasing gas and killing her entire family. When you see that, it goes to show about like she's coming back to her mind frame and thinking, okay, what's she going through? Is she a pawn in this or is she something more? And she realizes she's a pawn, so she's like, I don't have to kill you because you're not going to go to Oz. You've given me all the information I need. And then when they tie in about the hangman identity too, I thought that was something very cool as well that yeah, there's just no loyalty here, and Eve is now buying into Sophia, which is even wilder to think about that one of his closest allies flips. And then they go to the big, I would say, the big main event here. And no, it's not with Penguin, it's with Victor because he goes back to see Squid. And this whole sequence is absolutely brilliant because he goes back and Victor has money. He literally gives it to him and says, listen, we don't have an opening right now. There's nothing we can do. I'm so sorry. Here, take this as like a compensation gift. And Squid doesn't want to hear it. And then Squid reveals that he knows that Oswald's mom is with him and he's threatening to do whatever he has to unless you give me what I want. And then what does he do, Nick?
Victor says, fine, I will take you to him. And he starts leading him there, and then he ambushes him, and he gotta go. Squid Kid gotta go.
Yeah, shot right in the neck. Like out of nowhere, no chance of survive. Like, I'm sorry, like there's no chance he survived that. And just with Squid staring at him while he's dying. That moment right there, that's when it sunk in because they did this great camera shot of like him staring at the camera. And
Mhm.
it's like you now see what Squid is seeing, and then you finally see any innocence of Vic is gone. Like how good.
Even as he calls out saying he's sorry and this and that, it's like you're saying that in the moment, but you're really not that sorry.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah, not even. He just lets him die. Like I say, I can't see him coming back from this. Like if he somehow survives, this will be insane. But I can't see him
Yeah.
doing that. So
Yeah, and I think going forward in the last few episodes here, I'm assuming we're going to see a lot more confidence out of Vic. You're going to not see the stutter. You're going to see him become very confident and everything. I think we get that by the end of the series.
yeah, oh, I think so too. I mean, I think there's only one play they can go with now, which knowing how the episode wraps up, because Oswald during this episode had a very quick moment with a councilman that he had to use his influence to make sure the power was turned back on in Crown Point, where his mom was staying, because obviously she is staying there, and I mean their relationship is taking a lot of different turns in this episode. I mean, obviously with her illness, and then with Victor, I mean with Oz's business practices, there is definitely a lot of friction there. So he's just trying to make sure his mom is as comfortable as possible. The power comes back on in Crown Point, so Oz has now saved the neighborhood, so to speak. This is also followed by him uniting every single gang in Gotham to go after the Maroni slash Gigante family. And Nick, when you're seeing this scene too, that Oswald is just wants to have a drink with everybody and what he's proposing, what do you think is going to go down?
Well, I want to go back to the scene with the politician first,
Sure.
because they both kind of go hand in hand, because they're both very important. And Oswald is finally feeling like he's got something going, and all of these crime families, and I would assume all of these politicians know who's running the show right now, because the Falcone Maroni Gigante family, what exactly are they doing right now? Right?
Mhm.
Obviously, they're out for revenge, but in terms of being a crime family, what crimes are they really committing besides trying to get revenge? Are they really running the streets in the neighborhoods? Same with some of these other, families and organizations that we saw, Colin Farrell's character interact with there and have a beer with. What are these guys all doing? Nothing. He's running the show right now. So it was time for him to step up and say, you need to show me respect. And he did it in that way to the politicians, and he did it with them. And like we alluded to earlier, he's someone that'll stab everyone in the back. And he even said that to all of them. That's how I got here.
Yeah.
But it really feels like at this point, I don't know if he necessarily would, based upon where we're at right now. I don't think he would look to stab those guys in the back. I really think he's trying to build something, and he just wants to be at the top of the food chain, but he's not necessarily looking to eliminate everyone else along the way.
Yeah, I think at this stage, the writing is doing a great job about alluding to that. Like they're really trying to convince the audience that, like, hey, he's gone through a redemption arc, so to speak. Like this is
Yeah.
the same Penguin we know. But it also leads me to believe like he's gonna do something just to throw everybody off. Like much in the same kind of comparison to like a Tony Soprano. Like, sure, you had the late James Gandolfini's character just win you over with the charisma, but yet he still did a lot of bad things and still took some people out that he was very close with. And I feel that Penguin's going to do that here too, especially knowing that, yeah, this is a business and he knows how much heat is on him right now. He's going to have to do something. But it's kind of that moment that you think, okay, maybe everything's turned in his favor. Everything's finally going his way. And then we go to the final scenes and we see that his mom and Victor get the power turned on in the apartment. They're dancing, the music's playing, and then the camera shot of who's in the doorway and who is standing there, Nick.
One Sophia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With crowbar in hand. And that's how they wrap up the episode. So now, I mean, there's a lot to speculate with 2 episodes left. I have a theory of what's going to play out. And I'm like, now I'm so like involved with the characters. I don't want to see this happen, but I think it's going to. Sophia's going to force Victor to take Oz out. That she's gonna basically say like she's gonna take Sophie or Francis hostage and say like now you're working for me, whether he
Okay.
or
Okay.
not. And then that's gonna lead to a showdown where Oz has got to do what Oz has to do, and I fear he's going to be the one that winds up killing Victor.
I've kind of wondered since the beginning if Victor is long for this Gotham universe, and seeing them finally kind of go at it in that way would be very interesting. I don't know if Sophia survives this universe though. I don't think she moves forward, and I think the Penguin certainly does, but I think by the end of it, we're going to see a very damaged and very cold penguin.
Oh,
Evil,
agreed.
cold penguin. Yeah.
I don't think there's any way you get around it. I mean, even when you saw the moment, which I know we didn't allude to, when Vic mentioned about when he took care of Squid, and Oz just goes, "I think it's easier. Come here, give you a hug."
Yeah.
Like that moment, like he understood. Like finally, you've achieved what I wanted you to do, and he was like, it was like almost the proud dad moment.
Right. I'm so proud of you. It's
Yep.
like,
It's like, yeah, he hasn't forgotten where he's come from and he understands the loyalty aspect. So he's demanding this from Vic. And then to see now how he plays out, because now you have to wonder if he gets taken out by Sophia, but I don't think they would do that. Not at this stage. I think if anything, he survives. Because I know with the crowbar and like I say, it's a comic thing. Would this be like Joker and Jason Todd? And I don't know. Like I hope not. like way back when, because in the comics and even the result of a 900 number in the late 1980s, they did a contest about should Jason Todd live or die, and the fans voted for him to die, and the Joker beat him to death with a crowbar and then blew up the place he was at because well,
Yes.
so I'm wondering, would they do that with Sophia, so to speak? And I just don't think they will. I think they're going to force Vic to go at him. So basically, Oz is going to be responsible for the death of his own family. And then that leads him to become the Penguin that we all know that is ruthless and heartless and does not care about anybody.
Right, because going into this story, the only thing he really had was his ambition and his mother. And to come out of this, he could have an empire and have no mother, no protege, just an empire. And that would break the character, and he would just be a cold, heartless penguin.
Yeah, and I think that that's where we're going with, and I think it's going to work out on so many different levels. Even though, like I said, the last episode is going to be a gut punch. It's going to be. I really think the show is going to deliver on just an insane ending. I agree with you. I don't think Sophia survives. I think Sophia is gone. I'm to my recollection, she's gone in the comics as well. But you never say never. I mean, the only character that's ever stayed dead in comics is Uncle Ben Parker from Spider-Man. Everybody else comes back or another. So
so true.
like seriously, he's the only person who ever does. Ultimate Spider-Man right now doesn't count, but in that aspect though, no, I think that they're going to set up for something completely mind-blowing epic. And there's part of me that hopes Sophia does survive, because I think that seeing her come back for a second season, that could be fun. But depending on what they want to do, because we have to remember it's still the movie is driving everything here, and Matt Reeves is still involved with this show. So if he doesn't want to do it, then they'll take a different route. But I think for what they wanted to establish here, they did a great job. And this episode alone was an emotional ride, and you saw Oz hit some highs, hit some lows. You know, he's such a caring individual. He brought everybody beverages to celebrate. I mean, what more would you want in a boss like that?
Yeah, we want beers with the boys, right?
Yeah.
Beers with the boys.
Yeah, just, throwing a little brewskis back. Nothing wrong with that. Sure, the crime families are coming after us, but hey, it's okay. Got some cold ones. Just, this is our way of pledging allegiance. And like to see everybody pop the tops. It was, he finally sold his vision of Gotham to everybody that he's been wanting to do for years. But it's like, how short-lived is it going to be with Sophia now at his family's doorstep? Like, that's the true test right now. A lot of fun stuff happening on the Penguin Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on HBO Max. So definitely stream it when you can. We'll have a lot more to talk about it in the weeks to come. And that's pretty much it for this episode. I mean, we're early in the week, so not a lot of news has been breaking. But first and foremost, I definitely want to thank our guest, Nick, for coming through. Nick, why don't you let everybody know how to find out what's going on with you and the Pokemons and Wrestling Night Live?
Listen, if you want to talk Pokemon, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm the Poke Traveler. Drop me your favorite Pokemon. Let me know what your favorite game was. Who your favorite trainer was, or if you want to see me beat up Padawan J in a Pokemon battle, let me know there. If you want to talk some pro wrestling, you can see me Thursdays hanging out with Ken and Rich on Wrestling Night Live, YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook, any streaming platform. If we're not on there, I'm going to yell at these guys and make us be on there.
Yeah, I mean, we're on everywhere we can right now. I know there's 2 platforms right now that we're working on, but it's on their end, not ours.
Yeah, see, it's never our fault.
No, it isn't. No, we're perfect. We don't know anything wrong.
Perfect record.
Yes.
100-0.
Yeah, never lost. Much like the New York Yankees, who are going to have to come back tonight as we record. Take 4 games back.
It's going to be a tough night. It's going to be a long night.
It's going to be a long night, but I have faith. I have to.
I know my Steelers play tonight too.
Oh, and plus we got Monday Night Raw to recap as well. I mean, it's going to be a busy weekend, but that's what we do here at Nerd Initiative and the ODPH Podcast. We're doing it all for you. So definitely make sure you drop those follows, drop those subscribes, and definitely thank you for checking us out this week and listen to another edition of the ODPH Podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such wasted time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.